This video is going to go over the Thesis and Outline Planner, which is a pre-writing assignment in Unit 3 of English 101. I'm starting out with a blank document here to show you what that document looks like. There is a planner in both Word and Google Doc formats. There's a Part A, Part B, Part C, and Part D of this assignment. I am going to share with you a sample thesis and outline planner, so you'll be able to use this as you're working on the assignment to make sure that you're completing each section correctly. The sample includes sample answers using a different article, but it also includes links to resources that might be helpful as you work through the assignment. The first thing to know is that you're going to be using Reading 2 in order to complete most of this activity. For the summary response essay that you're writing, you are going to be summarizing and responding to Reading 2, which is the assigned article that your instructor has given you. In Unit 2, you were given an article, and then you also had to find an article. The one that you were given is Reading 2. The one that you are finding on your own is Reading 3. So make sure that you are summarizing Reading 2. In Part A, you're going to include an attention getter, which is always going to be the first thing. You're going to include an introduction sentence to introduce the reading that you're responding to, which will be R2. And there is a summary cheat sheet document that gives you kind of a template for how to format this sentence. It shows you which parts need to be in italics, which parts need to be in quotation marks, etc. You're going to include some background and context in this beginning paragraph. It can come before or after the introduction sentence, whichever you prefer, but you're always going to end the first paragraph with your thesis statement. The thesis statement is going to determine the rest of the direction of the rest of your essay. So you can say that you agree or that you disagree, and it's also possible that you may agree with parts but disagree with other parts of the author's argument. That's absolutely fine. Just make sure that it's very clear in your thesis statement what position you're taking. The second part of your thesis and outline planner is going to help you develop your summary. Remember up here there was a summary cheat sheet, so please feel free to review the rest of that resource if you aren't really familiar with summary writing. But what we're asking for is the author's purpose and audience, and then 3 of the author's major points, and then summarize how the author concludes their article. So you can see that there's information about purpose and audience here. The major points are listed in a list. You can write them out if you want, or you can put them in a bulleted list. It's up to you. And then there's some information about how the original author concludes the original article. So this summary should do a good job of restating all of the main points in the original article. I want you to imagine that your reader, whoever is reading your essay, has never read the original article, R2. And so it's your job to do a great retelling of that article. You do also need to include citations. And there's some resources over here that help you to make sure that you're doing that correctly. There's a citations example document, there is an overall guide about citations, and then there's a video that talks a little bit about some citations as well. The third part of this planner, Part C, is the body or the response portion of the essay. And in this part, what you're going to do is you're going to match up each paragraph with these 3 major points that you already identified. So the first major point that you identified in the summary is going to become paragraph 1. The second major point is going to become paragraph 2, and so on and so forth. And that way, the points that you've identified in the summary are going to match up with the order of the points in your response. You'll start each paragraph with a reference to the original article and what they're saying about this particular point. Then the bulk of the paragraph is going to include your own response. What do you think? What do you believe? What's your opinion? Why? Right? What from your life or experiences has led you to believe this? And then finally, you're going to use support from R3, which is that additional article that you found on your own about this topic. You're going to use evidence or support from R3 in order to help explain why you are choosing this position or taking this opinion. So paragraph 1 is broken down into 3 pieces: the topic sentence, examples, details, and explanations, and then support. And I know it's kind of hard to see on this document because we have so much information here. But if we look back at the original, you'll see each paragraph is going to include these 3 things. And this sort of gives you a framework for how to develop each of your body paragraphs in the response section of your report. The information that I have here includes information about the citations, reminders to include your own response, and some examples of what it looks like to include source material from your reading 3. I haven't gone into great detail on paragraphs 2 or 3 because it's going to be essentially the same as what you've done in paragraph 1. The final part of the essay planner is part D, which involves both the conclusion and the references. In the conclusion, make sure that you're restating your thesis and your major points. This is a response essay, and the overall thesis has to do with whether you agree or disagree. So do not fall into the trap of just summarizing the original article again. You already did that in the summary. The conclusion is something different. It should summarize your position. So restate your thesis and then remind your audience of the major points that you made in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 of your response. Why do you agree or disagree with point 1? Why do you agree or disagree with point 2? Why do you agree or disagree with point 3? And then the references section is the last part of the planner. In this part, you should be including a reference for reading 2 and reading 3. There will be a video available to walk you through the the reference for R2. Whatever reading it is during this current semester, I'll make sure there's an updated video here for you to use. And you can always use the APA guide to help you with reading 3. You should also have already completed the APA reference for reading 3 in an earlier assignment in Unit 2. Either the Exploring the Database assignment or the Integrating Sources assignment. So you can always backtrack to one of those earlier activities in order to get the APA reference for reading 3. Hopefully this helps. If you have any questions while you're working on this assignment, please don't hesitate to refer to the sample or email me and get in touch with me directly so that I can answer your questions.